Go ahead from Emily. First of all, thank you to so many people who are joining us from around the world right now. My name is Brad Reed. I'm the Executive Director of Sail Newport, and welcome to our 9th Challenger Lecture Series event presented by Hinckley Yachts and Hinckley Yacht Services. This is our 7th virtual Challenger event, and we're delighted to have Kenny Reed and Shirley Robertson back with us, joining us again to reflect on the Prada Cup and the upcoming 36th America's Cup. A special thanks to Emily Grigori, our events manager, for getting this together tonight and getting our technology sorted. And a reminder to our guests that we can't get to all the questions, but we'll try to get it to as many as we can. The chat room is open for comments, but please keep it smooth sailing in there and put the questions in the Q&A function. Oops, there we go. As always, I want to acknowledge Dr. Charlie Shoemaker for being the inspiration for this evening lecture series. Charlie's been a great mentor to so many sailors here in Narragansett Bay, and we're just thrilled to have this series named in his honor. We can't wait to have you all back in the 11th Hour Great Room for some live Challenger Series events, but for now, these Zoom conference rooms will have to suffice. Once again, thank you to our sponsor, Hinckley Yachts and Hinckley Yacht Services. From sales of new and used boats to world-class service facilities around the country, Hinckley Yachts and Hinckley Yacht Services has you covered. Learn more about Hinckley's product line and yacht service offerings at hinkleyyachts.com. It is not too late to sign up your kids, your sailors for our youth sailing programs. Please click on this QR code. Takes you right to summer registration. It is going fast. We have a lot of slots already taken, but we still have some availability. Please register this month so that you can get your child, your grandchild, your niece, your nephew out sailing with us in our dinghy program and our keelboat programs. Tonight, we're supporting our youth racing and race management programs. Every gift we can get to the annual fund tonight will directly support our renowned youth racing and regatta and race management programs. This will fund new sails for the Sail Newport, Ida Lewis Yacht Club, Brenton Cove Racing Program, Club 420 fleet, the charter fleet, and also the laser fleet for the Brenton Cove Racing Program. It will also allow us to purchase and utilize new robotic marks for our race management team. We're getting these mark set bots that are going to be used this summer, and it takes some funding. So gifts of any size are greatly appreciated, and your support ensures that Sail Newport provides exceptional, cost-effective sailing experiences for everyone. You can give online with your credit card, and Emily will put that link into the chat, or you can click on this QR code and be able to donate right through Give Campus. Or of course, you can pay by check to Sail Newport. Call Eve if you have any questions, or toss her an email right at that address right there. Thank you so much for making a donation to support community sailing. A reminder to join Sail Newport, get your membership up to date prior to the start of the season. Individual and business memberships are available. And Kenny's gonna give me grief for my infomercials. I can just tell it's coming. And another last notice is our upcoming Challenger Series. In late March, Sail Newport continues the diversity in sailing conversation with a focus on gender diversity in our sport. This panel discussion will be moderated by Danny Washington and former Sail Newport board president, Amy Kemp. Following that, in April, we will do a Challenger lecture series celebrating Earth Day and Earth Month with an important dialogue of the environmental and sustainability obstacles and opportunities in the sport of sailing. There's been a lot done in this space, but a ton left to do. Both the March and April Challenger Series are presented by 11th Hour Racing and Hinckley Yachts. So stay tuned for those and many, many more announcements from Sail Newport. So on to our presentation. Welcome back again, Shirley and Kenny. The 5-minute monologue is over, but welcome back. Where are you guys right now?
Well, can you guess where I am?
I think so. I think you're at the New York, either you're across the harbor at the New York Yacht Club or you're at their base.
I've just finished a podcast with Terry Hutchinson. So I'm in the base. I'm in the whole hospitality unit of American Magic, and it's kind of sad to see. You know, all the boats are wrapped in plastic and everything's packed up. But it's good to see the guys. They're slowly recovering from, you know, a tough few months.
So as many of you know who are on this Zoom conference, Shirley is a lifelong sailor. So many achievements on the water. The first British woman to win consecutive Olympic gold medals, a World Sailor of the Year, the first woman ever to race and win on the Extreme 40 circuit, and the only woman to regularly helm on the super yacht circuit. The accomplishments are impressive on the water, but off the water, she's also forged a parallel career that positions her in a unique space. Shirley is the face of sailing on TV globally, hosting the BBC's Olympic coverage from 3 Olympic Games, and for over a decade, she's hosted CNN's flagship sports program, CNN Mainsail. She's also hosted the America's Cup and Sail GP coverage, including the current 36th America's Cup. There's also this wonderful podcast, Shirley Robertson Sailing Podcast, which she just did an interview with Terry, is available all over. I get mine on Spotify, but you can go to shirleyrobertson.com to get the latest podcast. Lots of great guests from the America's Cup and all over sailing. So once again, Shirley, welcome. Kenny, where are you? Where are you located right now?
Oh, I'll show you. I'm straight across the harbor. Can you see the Team New Zealand base?
Now we can, yeah.
Yep, Team New Zealand base is straight across there. There's the city front. The race committee is next door. I'm sitting in our TV compound, and not so glamorous in the background, but I was set up outside, just so you know, and it's pouring rain, and if you hear some thunderclaps from time to time, that's real as well. These are not staged. Unlike Shirley now brings a fan with her to webinars. So speaking of staging.
Well, thanks, Kenny. Thanks for joining us. And as again, many of you know on our call, Kenny's one of the most accomplished sailors and celebrated in the sailors in the world. Twice been at the helm of Dennis Connor's America's Cup programs, named United States Rolex Yachtsman of the Year on 2 occasions. He's won over 50 national, North American, and world championships. After skippering two podium finishes in the Volvo Ocean races, Kenny returned to his business and sailmaking roots as president of North Sails in 2013, and more recently has added the title of executive vice president of North Technology Group. He served as the color commentator for NBC Sports at the 34th America's Cup in San Francisco, as well as commentator for the America's Cup TV for the 35th edition in Bermuda. He's currently in Auckland as a play-by-play commentator for the America's Cup global broadcast. He, like Shirley, have been doing a ton of double-handed racing and offshore sailing recently, maybe going for the Olympics in 2024. And wouldn't that be super cool if you guys were able to compete against each other for the US and for the UK? So Kenny, welcome, and thank you both for joining us. So we're gonna get right into this. We haven't spoken to you since the Prada semifinals. So let's start talking about American Magic a little bit. Let's go to American Magic. Oop, Kenny, I completely blew off your slides. I'm gonna roll through here.
BGs.
Let's roll into the COVID delay of the match. What's going on down there in terms of COVID?
Well, right now it's we're called level 3 in Auckland. They found one case this past weekend, and we read about Texas and other states saying you don't even have to have masks anymore. It couldn't be more opposite here, right? It is, they find one case and they literally shut half the country down. So what level 3 means is nobody's working in all these buildings here for the most part. Masks pretty much everywhere. You have to stay within your work bubbles. they're trying to keep people in their homes. And because of that, they had to delay the America's Cup from starting this coming Saturday until the start is now officially next Wednesday. But there's still, is the level going to be changed this weekend? We have to wait till Saturday to find out. Right now, there has been no new cases since that one case was found. Today's a big day because they keep talking about incubation periods and things like that on different strains. So if there's no more cases today, I think we're probably in pretty good shape for this level to at least be knocked down to level 2. And as we know, during the Prada Cup finals, the last part of that was actually sailed during category 2 or level 2. Right. So it's complicated. It's just part of the world, right? It's just part of the world. So these guys are adapting. The teams are adapting just like the rest of the world's adapting.
Great. Well, let's go right into the debrief. Again, we haven't talked to you since American Magic was eliminated, and it was tough going for these folks, these guys, to even get it back on the water. Shirley, let's start with you, and maybe Kenny, you can pop in as well. What does the debrief look like for American Magic, and will they be back?
Oh, those are big questions, Brad. They're in the process of debriefing here. I think there's been 3 weeks of all kinds of debriefing processes, like you would in any big organization. I think the reality is they spent 10 days rebuilding Patriot, and it was like a fairy tale when we saw it on the race course, but it was wounded. And even although Terry, the optimist, talked it up, the boat were really wounded, and especially that windy day and the breeze. Mm-hmm. And then the next day, I sit next to Kenny in the commentary box, and he was sitting there with his hands on his head when Dean Barker said, the cant arms aren't working, he can't lift or drop the foils. I mean, it was such a terrible end to it all. And the reality is, whilst they spent 10 days rebuilding Patriot, just across the viaduct, the Italians were making massive progress, and they came out of the blocks looking like a different team. They were really quite slick in maneuvers. There just really wasn't any faults, whereas before there had been, and they made a big step up in that period. So it was tough to watch, but there was a real sense, I think, of inevitability. I mean, this game's all about moving forward and having, as Kenny always says, having a toy box full of things that you're gonna try and you're gonna work on as the event progresses. And American Magic didn't even get a chance to open their toy box. They were just repairing the boat. So it was a tough time, I think, for all of them here. They were pretty broken from the whole experience. Mm-hmm. But you definitely get the sense that they're looking ahead. They've got recon out at the moment. I mean, I've heard they're in talks with the Kiwis in case they win, and there's some positive vibes for sure coming out of the camp.
Kenny, what do you hear coming out of the camp?
Well, I mean, to me, it's about the debrief, right? And I don't mean to be harsh or anything, but as Bill Parcells, who most people on this call know who Bill Parcells is, down here, by the way, when I give this story, nobody knows who I'm talking about. But as Bill Parcells used to say, you are what you are. You are what your record indicates. So they had a good Christmas regatta, and but they were over in the Prada Cup, and it's not what they came for. It's not what they were expecting. But you are what you are, right? And so they had lost all their races entering or before the crash. So I think this debrief has to focus not on the crash, but it has to go way back. It has to go 2 years back. And it sounds crazy, but when we were purchased by a financial group, North Sales was purchased by a financial group several years ago. To be honest, we were kind of dreading it. And as sailors and as people who have been running North Sales for a long time, we thought we knew our company. And sure enough, from time to time, they send in some of their smart people to kind of look under the hood with us. And of course, we dread that too. It's like, here we go again. Every time they leave, we get better and smarter because smart people ask good questions. I think all debriefs have to be done from outside the box, from outside the compound. There needs to be outside resources brought in to take a look at everything from the business structure, from the communication structure, all the way down to finally, this isn't about designing a fast boat right now. This is about setting up a culture and setting up a structure and a business that is technology driven. And it's not a boat race program. This is a technology company. This is not a boat race program. And I think Team New Zealand has done a spectacular job of setting up that type of culture. But it started a long time ago. Yeah, it started a long time ago, and they got some years on them. So it doesn't happen overnight.
Right. So the next team that was eliminated was Ineos Team UK, a team that had come back from the depths of despair after the Christmas races to win their way into the final of the Prada Cup. And they were effectively working to find that speed edge. What happened and why? And we're going to get into the starting part of this later, because their sailing wasn't as good as we had expected either. And we'll get into Luna Rossa a little bit later. But what happened with Team UK? And Shirley, you have a direct line to a lot of those folks in that camp.
It was interesting. Yesterday, Kenny and I spoke with Freddie Carr, who's one of the grinders, the real linchpin of that team, that grinding team on Ineos. And we asked him, when they began to get an inkling that things weren't right. And he said, when they first arrived here, and remember, none of them had lined up against each other before. When they first arrived here, they could see, other boats were on their foils earlier than they were. They were dropping off before other teams. And so, as Kenny says, the America's Cup it's a long process that starts years ago. Mm-hmm. And I think since the time they unwrapped the boat and they went sailing on the Hauraki Gulf, they've been on the back foot trying to solve that problem. Mm-hmm. Whereas, Luna Rossa, in a way, we're just incrementally just making progress. But, from the get-go here in Auckland, the British had a problem and did well to get as far as they did. I mean, when they came out for that round robin and won every race, it was, it was a great moment. It was a good sporting moment. And, but I think, Kenny made a point then about the Kiwis. The Kiwis have been in this game for over 30 years. I mean, a lot of the guys who sit in that design room have been with them that time, and the shore crew and the coaching team. And, for Ben, next door to the tent I'm in now, this is his second campaign pooling that IP together. And, they will go through a full debrief as well, but for sure, decisions were made before they even got to Auckland, which caught them out.
I mean, Kenny, and you both mentioned how shattered American Magic was. I mean, you've known many of these sailors and team members on Ineos Team UK for a long time. Shirley, were they gutted?
Yeah, and they're exhausted. They're just, it's been day and night for a long time. And that feeling, Brad, when you can hardly breathe out, there's so much sort of tension every day. And finally, then that's over. I mean, they've been fighting a battle for months since they've been here. And, they're still just trying to readjust, I think, to it being over. I mean, surprisingly, Ben Ainsley's been really cool and composed, and he's been a real leader throughout all of this, more so than we've seen before, but really cool throughout this process. And I wonder if he's playing the long game a bit. He knows it's going to take a while to achieve in this world, and he just needs to be able to keep his team together and keep a bit of momentum with it.
The sailing part didn't go well. I mean, obviously they were a little off the pace. It seemed like the Italians seemed to be quicker pretty much all the time in almost every race except for maybe the one that they lost. But Kenny, talk a little bit about the starts. We've known Ben Ainsley to be one of the best match racers in history, and it just didn't seem like they had the mojo.
Well, one of the most understated sides of the package, of the Prada package, is their maneuverability and their maneuverability at slow speeds. Believe it or not, the pre-start is about your ability to go slow rather than going fast, and going slow yet staying comfortably on the foils and not risking that coming off the foils. Prada could do that literally many knots slower than Ineos. So you think about it, and it's like, remember the Tom Cruise scene where he said, "I'm just going to put the brakes on, he's going to fly right by"? I mean, it was almost Prada has that ability. Like, hey, just stick the brakes on, they're going to sail themselves into a tough spot. And we were talking, like Shirley said, we were talking to Freddie Carr yesterday, and one thing none of the sailors know, please, anybody watching, don't tell anybody, but we get to watch all the cameras before the start, so we can see them warming up, we can see the sails they have. So believe me, we're good at sounding kind of silly from time to time on global television. So we're trying our hardest to try to get as much in the old brain before the race starts to sound educated. So we go into our production room and watch dozens of cameras from all. So we kept watching them practice this high slow mode, high slow mode, high slow, 2 boards down, high slow. Sure enough, in one of the pre-starts, they just set up Ineos. I mean, set them up with this high slow mode that nobody could believe. And all of a sudden they're shutting them out at the weather end and got a foul on them, and all kinds of craziness happens. So they have a gear, but the gear happens to be a slow gear. And that is real in a very small box. That's in a small starting box. That's a really big advantage right now, as it turns out.
Well, what do you think about, I mean, in terms of the starts, I think I have this question in the speed round of Q&A, but would you like to see the starts be longer and make the box maybe either narrower or bigger? I mean, 2 minutes and 10 seconds, it doesn't seem like enough time.
Well, it's too much for these guys. These guys, they're having coronary, they're just grinding like crazy in order to be able to have enough hydraulic power to pull off all these now match racing maneuvers. I don't think anybody planned on doing this. This is what evolves. This is what happens when good sailors evolve.
Well, does that mean
but the starting box, I slip notes under the door of Ian Murray, the regatta director, make it smaller, make the starting box smaller. The sailors want it to be the size of the South Pacific so they could do these nice, big, long glides and approach. But the more maneuvering, the better for all of you who are watching this and all of us who are trying to talk about it. The more maneuvering, the better. But they do have a set starting box size. So unless the course, and Shirley, tell me if I'm wrong, I think unless the course is situated in a spot where it has to be shrunk up for natural reasons, there is a set starting box size, and it is what it is.
So. All right, you said something there that many people have asked in the Q&A, both pre-show and during the show now. You mentioned the fact that these boats, they can't sail for more than 2 minutes and 10 seconds pre-start because they have people grinding fluid and all that. Seriously, does that have to change to make things a little bit more normalized in sailing? Maybe even adding an engine. I mean, why not add an engine? If they're going to just have human beings on the boats, on the handles, put an engine in there. Well,
that's called Sail GP, right? That it's more push button oriented and battery powered oriented. The rules are here, right, Cheryl? That it's from waterline up, humans got to power it. Waterline down, batteries power it.
Right.
All of it goes in, but then the humans they decide to do it with hydraulics. All these hydraulic systems are all bespoke across the fleet, completely unique. So all you're seeing is, instead of somebody grinding and the main sheet moving as you grind, you're just grinding into either accumulators or direct drive into hydraulic cylinders in order to move the thing. So it's just, they're just trimming stuff. there's a lot of stuff to trim, and there's not very many people if you think about it. Well, Cheryl, the Brits did it with 6, and everybody else is doing it with 8, right? So the Brits, I don't know what they eat over there, but it's pretty, it's good.
Well, maybe that technology
Bangers,
will get better.
yeah, bangers and mash. That's what we eat, obviously.
Also,
I mean, I would say there's not many of the grinders that just grind. They nearly all, although we can't actually see it because they're all in those trenches, they all have other functions. They have other jobs and responsibilities. Like Freddie was telling us, I mean, he's in charge of the backstay setting. That's his other job. And, and if he's a few millimeters out on that, then it could be half a knot. They all have responsibilities. They're not just there turning the handles.
Great. Okay. We're going to get into Luna Rossa, Prada, Pirelli in a minute. First, we're going to go into Team New Zealand. These are the defenders. They've been practicing alone since Christmas. They've sparred a couple times here and there. Let's go back to what Kenny talked about a little bit, and I'll start with you, Shirley, about the culture of this team. This team has been going nonstop since 1995, maybe even earlier, right? But the
92.
Well, 92, right? 92.
Well, 87, if you think about it. The Kiwis first got their taste of the America's Cup in the Challenger Finals against San Diego Yacht Club in 1987.
There you go. But in its current Team New Zealand packaging and livery, it's talk about
probably 95.
Yeah. Thank you.
Stop arguing, you two.
Somebody's got to be the smart one. Yeah.
It's interesting over there. I mean, there's certainly. I interviewed Ray Davies, who's their coach, and I asked him what's at stake, and he says, well, each and every one of us is aware of the guys that came before, of that 30 odd years of I just hard work and effort and putting everything into it. And so on one hand, they're the team, they call themselves, the team of 5 million. They're the team of the country, but also they're this really tight unit. And that's not just the current guys, that goes way back. I mean, if you put on a black shirt, it is something quite extraordinary. It means a lot. So it's a little bit of a fortress, I'd say. They're pretty kind of tight. The gates are shut, and sometimes we see them. There's one coffee shop we all go to, and we see them there, but that's kind of it. So, I wouldn't be hanging out speaking to you, Brad, and in their base. It's a different kind of culture. It's very, very tight, and very proud, and I think also, like, the sailors just kind of concentrate on. We spoke about this yesterday, Kenny. Everyone just kind of does their job. The sailors just go sailing. They're not doing other stuff, and they're hardly doing any interviews or anything. And they're sailing a lot. If there was some sort of prize for hours on the water, for sure the Kiwis would win it.
Kenny?
Yeah, the culture is something else. In this base that they have a reasonably extravagant looking base, which Shirley pointed out yesterday, which we think they're kind of embarrassed about, because the Kiwi culture, they'd rather be roughed up, kind of living in a shed, making do with their brawn and their grit, and it's really a cultural thing. I think I'm saying that with the ultimate respect and as a compliment. They were given this convention center by the city as part of a package to make their base, and it looks like the Taj Mahal. I mean, it is a big, very grand looking thing. And Shirley and I got to go up and talk to Dalton one day about a number of things. And it's all open plan. And part of the Team New Zealand culture, which Russell Coutts talked about a long time ago, is that it is a team, and the team is complete open plan. Every team, they don't have designers in Italy and sailmakers in the US, and everybody on Team New Zealand is in this room and works out of this room together. And so you walk up the stairs, you take a right, and you walk towards Dalton's office, and there is 110 black shirts back to you, head down, total silence on their computers in this open plan room. And you just go, you gotta be kidding me. It's the most intimidating sporting thing I've ever seen. Seeing another boat, fine. Your gut is, we can go kick their ass, no problem. But to walk in this room is like, oh, that's why they're so good. It's really phenomenal. It is something else, man. It is a special. In the open plan, we've all been parts of teams where the shore team starts to say, oh, those damn sailors, they keep breaking our boat. And the sailors are like, that shore team, they don't fix it well enough. And everything else in between. They can't, because they're all in the same room, and they intermingle people in between too, in between different people. So it's not like just the sailmakers here and just the mast guys here. They mix everybody up together. So there can't be factions. There has to be one big cohesive team. And you combine that and the fact that they're pretty smart and they come up with some cool stuff. It's a full package. There's no question.
I remember, Brad, when they turned up in Bermuda, they basically just shut the doors and didn't let anyone in. Not even, the ACTV, nothing. I mean, they did what they were contracted to do, and that was it. The door was shut. And some of that, I think, came from, well, they'd all fallen out with Russell Coates, I think. But partly also, they just wanted to be insular, and they were all about, winning that cup back. And I think here there's a bit of a legacy of that as well, is that they haven't suddenly become sort of defenders in their heads. They're still just there to win a yacht race. And so they've definitely adopted that. I mean, it is a bit of a fortress. It's not the same kind of dynamic we've had in the other teams. And I think that's a legacy from Bermuda.
Well, you can certainly see it in Peter Burling's lack of answers of any question you ever ask him.
I'm really looking forward to it.
We're just trying to get better. We're just the best we can. We're just trying to get better. Peter, what color is your shirt? I'm just trying to get better every day. We're really trying to get better.
I have to ask the questions at the mix zone. So, I mean, they have to come. There's no, they're contracted to come. So if anyone's got any great ideas for getting a bit more out of Pete Burley, just, email, Facebook, whatever, let me know.
All right, let's pivot to our Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli and talk a bit about just the advances they've made. We've talked a little bit about that. There's some boat speed things that are going on, but last time we talked, we were worried about their chemistry. And Shirley, I'm going to start again with you. Talk about the personalities on this boat. You told me an anecdote about their coach, Philippe Presti, and just the overall chemistry between James and Bruni and Presti and the whole team.
It's slightly weird, I say, because if anyone has sailed, or sailed with or competed against an Italian team, it's not like this. That's just kind of not how it is. But for sure, I think Jimmy Spittle has brought his coach with him, Philippe Presti. He was his coach at Oracle. They've been together for a long time. And Philippe Presti is he's French, he's an ex-Finn sailor. He's very analytical. And I think they've imposed their culture on it. And they've been so cool and calm and more Kiwi-like than Italian. But I think for our viewers who watched the final race, finally the Italianness just kind of exploded. They couldn't contain it anymore. And that carried on. I mean, I went to the base when they came in. It was just, you'd think they'd won the World Cup. It was just mad, noisy, emotional. Apart from, there was sort of a row standing behind all the Italians, and it was Jimmy Spittle, Philippe Presti, Martin Fischer, who's their head designer. He's German. So apart from the non-Italians, it was just this massive release, I think, of everything they've been holding in. But for sure, it's a lot more Kiwian approach. It's it's one race at a time. It's very analytical and methodical and unemotional, and And Jimmy's been more like that, I think, than I've really ever seen him before. I mean, I don't know about you, Kenny, but I would have thought that they probably wanted to have an all Italian boat, but they felt they needed something else.
Yeah, there's no question that they want this to be an Italian team. Max Serena as the quote skipper, who's never sailed a race on the boat, for example. Kind of reminiscent of when I sailed Dennis's boat. You know, Dennis was always the skipper, and he never sailed on the boat. So it's a Italian program, no question, of which I give Jimmy a ton of credit for fitting in, because Italian culture teams, first of all, to change them in any form or faction, I would have said prior to now would be impossible. That fiery burning passion of the Italian culture, and they've changed. They've slowed things down. They seem well, but they still have one thing. They still have one very Italian thing. You just look at this photo. It's just a beautiful package that they've made fast. We always said from day one. A colleague of Shirley and mine, Stephen McIver, kept saying, it's just beautiful. The boat looks beautiful. Well, it looks Italian. The bow shape is gorgeous. The hull just looks a little more like a sailboat than what some of these other boats look like. The sails are just so smooth and black and beautiful. They're gorgeous. And I don't know. They've made a gorgeous boat into a gorgeous fast boat. And that's pretty cool because a lot of times, sometimes pretty means slow, you know, because for a variety of reasons. So this is pretty fast, and they've gotten better, you know, seemingly by the day there for a while, and it's impressive. It's hard to do. It's impressive, and like Cheryl said, that culture has been adaptable to a different kind of outside thinking, and good for them. But it was great to see Bruni, wasn't it, in that final. When they crossed the finish line, finally turning into the Italian that we know and love. It was great.
That was great. That was really fun to see. So I'm going to get into a few questions. There's a couple questions on the Q&A. If the Italians win, do you think they'll change the boat?
I don't think anybody's going to change the boat. I think everybody's come around to realize when you see these boats in person, and I've talked to several of the high-ranking New York Yacht Club people even down here, I think everybody just is in awe of these boats. They are something special. They are what the America's Cup should be. Are they going to be simplified? I think so. One design components to try to bring the cost down, for sure. But Cheryl, I don't know what you hear, but I think everybody loves these boats right now.
Okay, we're going to get into the mainsail setup with the twin skin mainsails in a minute on a longer question. But could you answer the question again, Shirley, on why they're not using code zeros when it's super light? Why even have the bowsprit on the boat?
Well, it's interesting you bring that up. I mean, I'm sure quite a few of our viewers will have seen, you know, a bit of video from the Iraqi Gulf, and the Kiwis were out yesterday with the jib up and the code zero. So watch this space. You know, really? they may make a return, but you know, all the teams really found that there was such a tiny wind speed window where they worked that it was just like way too risky. And so no one ever put them up for racing. But you know, maybe they're just teasing us, the Kiwis. I'm going
to take full credit for this sail. Not only as a sailmaker trying to peddle my wares, but remember after one of the races in the Christmas Cup, the Kiwis came within inches of finishing, like several boat lengths of finishing. So, and then we get to interview them afterwards. I'm like, why don't you guys have an A2, you know, or an A sail to stick up on the last run, and you would have finished the race, you know? So if you're close, you're up, down, the time limit's coming up, throw something up. I think that's what they're using these things for. So finally, somebody listened to me.
There's always a first time for something.
I know. Yeah. I'm taking full credit for this downwind sail.
Okay. So another question we got earlier in the Q&A was when do the teams have to declare their foil packages and all their measurement stuff?
It's all done. It was Monday, wasn't it, Kenny? I think.
Yep.
I think that was it. It's all decided and done, and that's it.
Done. They can't change their foils between any races. They can change mainsails. They can change jibs all they want. What other things can they change?
Nothing.
How about the
Nothing really.
Rudders?
Nope. There was a bit of a tiff about how you line up your spares in case, what's a spare for what, and you have to number them and you have to have them measured in, and all kinds of stuff there. But that's pretty much done and dusted, I believe. They have to argue about something. So they picked spares. They're getting at the bottom of the list of stuff to argue about if they're arguing about spare parts. So that's probably a good thing.
Okay. Well, we have a lot more questions later on in the speed round Q&A, but let's talk about the biggest foil on the boat. We talk about the little foils that are on the keel a lot. The mainsail is by far the biggest foil element on the boat. And Kenny, really briefly, talk about the twin skins and why are there twin skins? There's a lot of basic questions about why they need twin skins.
Well, it's an efficiency package, right? So it's, instead of just having a big wing mast with one, you would always have you have a low pressure side and a high pressure side, and you're trying to reduce turbulence, obviously. But the twin skin allows you to really increase the potential lift drag quotient on that whole package around the mast. And the mast is always the disturber of the air. This essentially turns it into one big wing, having the skins come off both sides of the back edge of the mast. And depending who you talk to, these teams either love them or they hate them. So the designers at North with Emirates Team New Zealand a long time ago, shockingly enough, the sailmaker figured out how to get two mainsails on a boat instead of one, but that's a whole other story for another day. They wanted to come up with something as efficient as a hard wing, yet have the ability to come into the dock and take your sails down and not have to come in at $180 and spin around and have this big contraption you had to take out of the boat. So that's why they wanted a soft sail to begin with. And then depending on who you talk to, the Kiwis, of course, love it. It's the only boomless rig. We found out just recently that actually Prada has a boom under a false deck. A few photos leaked out around the social media world. So this is the only boomless setup. It's really ingenious. I've actually seen the inner workings of it. I'm obviously not allowed to talk about it, but it's quite ingenious. The loads that they're putting on the back ends of these sails is in the 10-ton range, so extreme loads on almost full carbon sails. Whether teams have camber induction systems within the sails or not, they're allowed to in the top 3 meters and the bottom 1.5 meters, but some of them may, some of them may not. We don't necessarily know that. And may never know that. So it's a real interesting piece of kit, as they say down here. And remember, the sail has to be deep enough to get a boat out of the water with 12 to 15 knots of apparent wind. And then as soon as you get out of the water, it has to be able to flatten itself and become an efficient foil in 50, 60 knots of apparent wind. So what's 50 knots of apparent wind amongst friends? You have to really, really be able to change the shape of the sail. And that's the cool part. That's the trickle down, by the way. That's coming to a sail near you. So Brad, on your cruising boat, you're going to have a twin skin main foiling. You're going to be popping that baby up on the foils in no time.
Watch out, Cuddy Hunk. I'm going to get there 7 times faster and we're going to be yelling about 2 mainsails that we have to furl.
Yeah, exactly.
So Shirley, we've all sailed on boats without hulls to make the bottoms of the sails deeper. This was the moment that I saw that it was going to be trouble for Ineos Team UK. This was one of the light air races against Luna Rossa, and they had they didn't have the camera on Luna Rossa in this race, but look how much flatter the bottom of that sail is. We'll go to the previous picture than that one, and talk about what that means for low speed. This is the same lineup. This is how much depth is in the lower part of the mainsail in Luna Rossa, and that's how much flatter Ineos Team UK was.
I mean, can you imagine being able to do that on any sail? I mean, it's just so adaptable.
Yeah.
You know, in an instant. I mean, we'd love, when it's all over, maybe Kenny has seen, but we'd love to see, you know, in those skins to see what's going on. I mean, they can do exactly what they want with that sail when they want it. And wow, it was so powerful.
So
it's all about getting the center of effort lower, Brad. In these, like I think I heard Glenn Ashby say in an interview a while back, part of his job is just keeping the mast up in the air because of the loads you're putting on these things. Everything has to be in sequence. You know, the structured luff down the jib, whatever the structure, you know, the helix structure in the main and going down the jib. How much Cunningham load is on each at different times. See, that's just about center of effort. That's about turning the top into a blade and putting the whole center of effort. And when the center of effort comes down, the righting moment of the boat goes up. And so you're playing but it's all physics. You know, it's all real. There's no hocus pocus here. This is all just real aero and hydrodynamic efficiency to the nth degree. I mean, this should be a downwind shot, most likely. Jib lead out. It's everything you do in all of our boats, right? You let the outhaul off, except they get to let it off 7 feet, you know, where we let it off, you know, 7 millimeters. It's really incredible.
And amazing engineering. I mean, I'm sure we'll end up knowing a lot more when it's all over. But even from the time they've been here, I mean, something like the Cunningham load has doubled. I mean, Kenny, it's double figures now, isn't it, for the Cunningham load in tons? So just think about again the engineering of even you know the makeup of the sail and you know all the hydraulic cylinders, and I mean incredible amount of. There's a lot of clever people working on this.
And like the multi-hulls, are they bending the mast and depowering the sail with the Cunningham?
With the Cunningham and the sail structure, no question about it. That's it. Some of these teams, 2 of the teams have told me, and this is no state secret here, that when they pull the runner on, that mast actually gets straighter. So they're really not bending the mast at all with the running backstay. It's all with the Cunningham, the sail structure, and the clew loads. So it's different world. I think these are going to lead to a lot more backstayless rigs, especially on cruising boats. I think we're going to see real trickle down. The sport is going to see real trickle down after when we're allowed. Remember, there's firewalls all within both of these teams. Knock on wood, have north sails, and we have firewalls all within our setup. So these 2 teams can't see what each other have. Well, I can't even see what each other have at this stage. So until the America's Cup debrief is over, when this cup is over, and all these designers throw all their stuff into a hat and try to then improve from there, we don't know for sure, but we just sit around and do what we do best. We just speculate and guess and make stuff up.
Well, let's speculate and guess about foils. We've seen a big difference between the teams, specifically as it pertains to this angle of the foils on both Luna Rossa and on Team New Zealand. Talk a little bit about these. Whoever wants to start, it's up to you guys. And what do you think the big benefit is for these flat foils with the bulb out front versus those anhedral foils that Luna Rossa has?
They're really different looking, and I'm sure Kenny will chip in with this. I mean, one of the, apart from the shape, the other big difference with them is the area. In the Luna Rossa's foils are considerably bigger, which we'd expect would help them, you know, in light conditions, marginal flying, you know, those tricky sort of sub 12 knots. But just kind of looking at Team New Zealand practicing, they don't seem to have any dramas in that area. So I'm sure they've worked out a way that's not a problem for them. But yeah, what do you think about the shape, Penny? What difference will that make?
Yeah, well, this is the straight across. Now, at first, it was speculated that one of the reasons you go straight across is so you could have just one trim tab that worked super efficiently from a weight and a hydraulic system structure. I don't know if it is all the way across or not, if it's one piece. For sure, Ineos had two pieces that actually worked separate from each other. So they actually had times where one was one way and one was the other.
So just to remind everyone, so the foils have a trim tab all along the back of the foil. I just wanted to make sure we told everybody that.
So this straight across, a couple teams had told me that they tried to make this work and they thought it could be a little bit faster, but it was more complex. And then keep in mind, it all has to fit within a size, a weight, this box, right? But it's not only just the size of the foil, but it's also the depth of the foil. So there you go. By reducing it up and making it an anhedral, you get rid of all the drag of the center spine there. You know, that there you go. That piece right there. Well, of course, the Kiwis go out and make a piece, that little section there on their new set of foils is like half the size of everybody else's. So they've kind of figured it out again. So in another quote, I saw somebody, or maybe it was Freddie yesterday, was talking about the efficiency during maneuvers and that big splash. When you see that splash, when that thing hits the water, does it make a big splash or it's like a diver, right? When a diver hits the pool, do you make a tiny little splash or a big splash? And that's all about speed coming out of these maneuvers, you know, and so that's one thing really to look at. I think these almost have pre-bend the other way, you know, that could be too, because you got to believe under load, these things change their shape and go up to a different shape. So they kind of, to me, look a little pre-bent. But anyway,
yeah, me too.
But Shirley's right. Like 25, 30% smaller. Does that become an Achilles heel in the super light air or in those down speed starting maneuvers? That's the big one.
Oops. Yeah. So this bullet off the front, we saw that on American Magic, and we've seen that on a couple other people's foils, but not as long and not as flat and not as tapered into the foil itself.
Yeah, that's weight. There is a center of gravity on these things. So they had, when you make tiny little foils, you gotta have there's a weight limit and a center of gravity, center of effort, center of gravity. I forget one of the two, and that's where that comes. So it's instead of 30% bigger on the boat on the right, you have 30% smaller with a little bulb, creating about the same weight and CG package on the boat on the left. At least that's what we've been told. But listen, this is clearly not any of our forte. This is like when you talk. The problem with talking to modern America's Cup sailors and modern America's Cup designers is there, even for people like us who are in the industry, they are speaking ancient Egyptian sometimes. It's a totally different language as to how these teams are talking about their boats and all the parts and pieces on them. So it's really, it's pretty cool for the sport of sailing. This is a different world. There's no question.
So these are the foils we're likely to see. I think this was from the Christmas time regatta, but we're still thinking this is the basic package.
Basic package, but Shirley, these two teams did not have their final foils in the Christmas regatta. So these were the only two. The other two teams did have their final foils on, which is a little telling, right? That the Challenger of Record and the Defender still had another set of foils to go. Remember, you were only allowed to build 6 total, it's a pretty prohibitive number. And it takes up, I think, Cheryl, 3 months, was it? Is that what we found out, about 3 months to build these things?
Yeah, more than that, I think. It was like 5 or 6 months, a long time. Yeah.
So you had to make decisions a long ways back. Is it because the challenger record and the defender had the plans and had the rule, quote, 6 months before everybody else? Does that mean that they had that design ability to push their final foil package out into the future that much more? Again, it's for all of us to speculate. I know if you were here on one of these boats, you'd say it didn't matter. If you were on one of the other two boats, you'd say that was everything. I know that your rhetoric has to fit your own program.
Right. Okay, so we are going to go into our Q&A, and this is our yeah, here we go. What you thinking? Q&A with Kenny Reed and Shirley Robertson. And we're going to start with some longer format questions first. I have two. One, Shirley, why do you think Luna Rossa is not playing well with others? You know, they've been battling with all the teams all along. They're not really getting along necessarily with their defender. They certainly had their issues with Ineos Team UK. What's going on in that camp?
Yeah, you don't mean on the racetrack. You mean with the lawyers.
Off the racetrack.
Well, there's always a lot of lawyers in the America's Cup, and I think, I don't know, Luna Rossa have been in the game for a long time, and they play that game hard. They haven't made friends here. I mean, that's kind of true. I mean, even the way they sort of handled the initial short lockdown, and you know, they really haven't made friends. They're not that popular here in Auckland for all of that. But I think, you know, they come from an era where that's kind of what you did, and it was part of the game, and they played it hard.
All right, Kenny, you did an interview with the chief umpire, Mr. Slater. I encourage everybody who's listening tonight to go and see that YouTube link. Hey, Terry.
Hey.
We're talking about you, Terry.
Exactly.
I really encourage everybody to go watch that. But can you talk about the starting penalties? Number one, why don't they just make them go back and restart?
If you start more than 10 seconds ahead, you have to go back and restart. So I think I was looking at the chat or the questions a while back, and it was a good question. Like, why not just start a minute early and take the 50-meter penalty?
That's what my question was. Exactly.
Well, that's not. First of all, that would violate several of the rules. So if you start within ahead of 10 seconds before the start, you have to go back. If it's within 10 seconds, you have to drop back 50 meters behind your competitor on a VMG line, not behind this way. It's behind on a VMG line. Now you can tack to get to that point, but however you get there, you have to get there. And they don't turn off the penalty unless you get 50 meters behind. So that's the pre-start rule. Open course rule is different. If you go out of bounds, you just have to drop back 50 meters, for example. But if it's or boat on boat, you have to drop back 50 meters as well. But 50 meters is the big number you got to remember.
Okay. All right. So can you tell the folks that are doing the TV coverage that we want to always see a boat speed? That every once in a while, they'll go to all these different other numbers. Just leave boat speed up on the screen. Can you get that accomplished?
Next question.
That's above our pay grade, Brad.
So
we do talk about it, and we're trying to get VMG up there more too. We're trying to get VMG and boat speed up on the screen more. Listen, this is a digital world, just like these guys are in a tech war with sailboats. It's a tech war in TV compounds too, trying to please all the people all the time. It ain't easy.
Okay, so this is our speed round. Now, Shirley, we've had to have a little chat with you. A speed round means a short answer. Is it
okay.
Less than 1,000 words.
I've got the hints.
Okay. All right, so here's the speed round. Many of these questions came from the viewers. I have interspersed a few random weird trivia questions, so be on your toes. Okay, Shirley, and I'm going to go back and forth this time. Shirley, Kenny, Shirley, Kenny, Shirley, Kenny. Shirley, on your foiling AC75, are you going to go with twin helms persons or one primary helm?
Don't you know anything about me?
You're going to have your own.
Of course, I'm going to do it all myself.
Yeah, Kenny, same question.
I'm a team player. I go with two because I'm.
Oh, brutal. Okay, Shirley, will the cup
taking resumes anytime? Who's going to be the other one? Ask Terry if he wants to throw his resume in.
Susie Leach is on. She's on the line here. So, Shirley, will the cup ever go back to boats that sail in the water?
I can't see it. Maybe underwater. I don't know. what's going to come after this? Who knows? I can't see it. I mean, these boats here have had, they've got the wow factor, and there's no going back.
Good. Kenny, Grant Dalton has reportedly been shopping the AC venue if they win the cup again. Is this a distraction for Team New Zealand?
Not even a little bit. They compartmentalize that team better than anybody. The sailors sail. The commercial people are commercial.
Shirley, AC75s are fantastic to watch, but recently have not produced very close racing. Will this series be closer?
Oh, well, I don't know. We don't know, and that's what makes it quite compelling. The recon from American Magic, they've been out following both boats, is that actually the speed is quite similar. So we're hoping for that. We love a close match, but we just don't know. You're going to have to watch and see.
All right, but I do want to say that when those races get a little ugly and they're 800, 1,000 meters apart, you guys are doing a good job filling the time. That cannot be easy.
All we keep telling people is go back and watch a 12-meter race from 1976, and you'll see how hard filling time was. Okay, good point. Good point by you.
All right, Kenny, this is a tough one. If Dad, who's on the line, Dad is listening, Bob Reed was helming either ET New Zealand or Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli, what end of the line would he start at, and which side of the course would he go to?
I'm going to change the question. Can I change the question? Do I have the capability? He would sail Ineos because they barge all the time, and my father has never started a race where he doesn't barge. So if he instead of Ben Ainsley were driving during that barging start, he would not have gotten a foul and he would have won the race because he's so good at barging.
Ding ding, that's the right answer. All right, Shirley, do you foresee either team using different foils for port and starboard?
No, I mean we're all set, Brad. It's all happening. The 3 years of development has come to this. Hopefully next Wednesday, and I can't see it. I think they're all set. Whilst I have you, I have to say something to your dad. What's your dad called?
Dad, Bob.
Bob.
Okay.
Yeah, we call him Dad.
Dad, Bob. He can't understand me. That's the feedback I got.
He did. He told me.
I just want to ask Bob if I've got a bit clearer, and perhaps if he can understand me now.
All right. Well, we'll have to see if he.
Okay.
If he chats.
He doesn't know how to work a computer, so the chances of getting an actual answer are 0.
Emily, can we pop him up on the as a panelist here?
No, right. Don't do it.
If you pop him up, he can't leave. So makes sense.
No, don't do it. Don't do it.
All right. So, okay, Shirley, again, because we already asked the question about the starting time. Shirley, do you think this concept in boats and platforms should be used again? Yes, you already answered that. Okay, a couple of random trivia questions. And this one came from a viewer. Kenny, what U.S. state capital ends in 3 vowels?
Oh, for God's sakes. Kalamazoo. No.
That would be wrong. It's Juneau, Alaska. Shirley, you ready?
Yeah.
Why do we agree to do this?
This is a big deal in our sport. Do you know who invented the word vomit?
William Shakespeare.
That's amazing. How did you know that? unbelievable. Kenny, if you dug a hole through the center of the earth, starting from Wellington in New Zealand, which European country would you end up in?
Denmark.
Shirley?
Spain.
You are correct, Shirley. How do you do it?
This might go down as the largest setup in the history of webinars.
Okay. So
I knew not to ever trust you. This is unbelievable. This is just proving my point.
Well, she's not going to get this one. There's no way Shirley's going to get this one. Yeah. Shirley, some general read knowledge, okay? Our mother was inducted posthumous.
Yes.
Thank you. I can never pronounce that word. To the Connecticut College Athletic Hall of Fame. For what sports was she inducted?
Now, I should know this because I have done a podcast with Kenny Reid, and also having spent 4 months with him, I feel part of the family, and with you, Brad.
Okay.
Now, you both played hockey, and she was a big influence in that. So I'm going to say hockey, some kind of hockey.
Field hockey. I'm going to give you a partial ding for that one. What other sports?
What other sports did she play?
Yeah.
Wow, not just one sport.
I set you up with the answer to this question in email.
I knew it. I knew this was a setup.
Ogden's Ross is right. Basketball and also, believe it or not, sailing.
Okay.
All right. Some regular questions. Kenny, how do you see Peter Burling matching up against Francesco and Jimmy in the start box?
We all thought he was going to get smoked by Jimmy in Bermuda, and he beat him, I think, every single start to the first mark except for one. They'll be ready. It's going to be it's being overplayed right now. The Kiwis will be race ready.
Shirley, do you believe that Team New Zealand has indeed eclipsed the 60-knot barrier?
No.
That's the rumor out there.
There's some great. I mean, I guess we watch the television here and listen to the radio. I mean, there's just some fantastic stuff, and on social media. The national TV went out with a radar to try and clock them doing 60 knots, but of course not. They're not doing that. As Kenny
Remember,
said
it's all
yesterday,
about lap time. Lap time.
Yeah.
Not high speeds.
No way. Maybe they're in the 50s. They're in 55 or something, but no.
Okay, before I ask Ken, actually, no, I'll ask Kenny this one. Kenny, if you were in a boat and had to pick one person in the world to throw the Super Bowl trophy to Gronk, who was on another boat, would it be Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes?
I took so much crap about my Mahomes.
You still are. Have you looked at the Q&A?
No, I'm not looking. Sorry, I'm not looking. But Tom Brady, my homer, my homeboy. Oh. I'm changed. Yeah, fine.
All right.
Fine.
All right, Shirley. Shirley, this is actually a legit one. How ticked off was Sir Ben for not being allowed to attend that last press conference?
Well, I'm sure a lot of people saw the little clip someone posted. Yeah, he was pretty cross, and they had words of it before. It wasn't like he turned up and they wouldn't let him in. By the time he turned up, there was, I think, 5 chairs all ready to go. But I think in the afternoon when they were, just coming in, they'd been sent a note saying, don't bother coming. I mean, it was so, I get it. It was so kind of disrespectful. I mean, he also has sponsors and fans and, and a backer, and he also wants to tell his story. So I don't know. It was just, I think, a bit of unthinking on behalf of Core, who organised the Prada Cup. And they did apologise, but... Yeah, I mean, that was the crossest we'd seen him in the whole thing, Yeah, pretty upset.
Okay. All right. So I am not going to ask you guys who's going to win, how many races, what have you. But I will ask you both the same question. And we'll start with Kenny. Who has the upper hand going into this regatta?
Oh, Kiwis are the favorite, no question. Yeah.
Shirley?
I got to say the same. I mean, they had a head start. It's their design. They're working hard. They're out all the time, and yeah, for sure, they're the favorite. But stuff happens at the America's Cup. So nothing is a foregone conclusion.
Yeah, they pitch poled in the last regatta and came back and won. So, well, any final words for our audience from New Zealand? I can't believe I gave you the mic back on this, Kenny.
No. I'm going to be good because I'm the adult of the Reed family and not the barger. First of all, I just want to thank Shirley and the rest of our gang down here. We've had, as hopefully it comes across on the commentary, how much fun we've had together as a group, and it's fun talking about our sport of sailing. Honestly, it's really fun. Fortunately, it comes reasonably natural to us, but at the same time, I follow Shirley's lead. Nobody studies harder than she does doing these things. And Nathan, Shirley, Stephen, the whole being part of this TV crew here has been a great experience. It's a great team, and it's a lot of fun. And it's fun to be able to show the sport of sailing like it's being shown, because it's never looked like this before. And guess what? It's only going to get crazier and faster from here. Right? There ain't, like Shirley said before, there's no sticking these things back in the water. This ain't slowing down. I can tell you that. And so anyway, it's fun to be part of. It's fun to be part of all these young athletes and watch the next generation, the growth of the next generation of our sport happen right before our very eyes.
I'd like to say, it's never left us, not even for a day, how privileged we are to be here. I mean, so many people, I guess probably a lot of them watching this evening, wanted to come and be part of this from all around the world. And instead, most of the world's been stuck at home, literally stuck at home. So, we're really aware of that. And I hope we've done a good job. Making television is the ultimate team sport. We have 100 and something people bringing you the amazing pictures and the audio, and we just do the easy bit at the end. But it's when it goes well, it's such a great feeling, and it's been good here being part of that team. And there's been a lot of story to tell and a lot of drama, and I really hope that we've done it justice. And we certainly feel it's a privileged spot, and I've enjoyed hanging out with your brother. Well, it's been good. Even if your dad can't understand me, it's been great fun.
Well, we'll certainly. Could you get some subtitles? Maybe that'll help. Yeah. Well, thank you, both of you. This has been tremendous. Remember Shirley's podcast. Make sure you tune in. Who's next on your podcast? Who's going to be up next?
Well, thank you for bringing that up. I mean, actually, if watching this Cup has sort of tickled your interest in all things America's Cup, there's a great back catalogue. Jimmy Spittle, Ben Ainsley, there's a whole design feature on the AC75. It's good. Kenny Reed, obviously. For the next one, which will come out this weekend, it's a double bill. The first part is Ray Davies, who's the coach for the Kiwis, and Francesco Bruni. So it's them. And in the second part, Kenny and I just have a chat, a bit like this. And we call Freddie Carr, who was with Ineos. So it's a bit of a preview into what we can expect next week, and hopefully it's a good listen.
Great. So we have a couple more things just to chat about here. We just want to thank everyone for coming and being such a great part of this organized event. Thank you again to Emily. Thank you for donating if you can. Thank you to our guests, Kenny and Shirley, for just an amazing three of these things that you guys have done. Thank you to Hinckley for their ongoing support, and really good luck this week. We hope there's big breeze. We kind of want to see a little bit of crashing and burning out there, some wheelies and stuff. But
so do we. Don't worry, so do we.
Enjoy your rest of your time down there, because the COVID world, although it's getting better up here, it's still here. So thank you again from the bottom of our hearts. You've brought a lot of happiness to a bunch of people wishing they were there.
Well, see everybody home soon, and thanks for having us.
Good night from
Stay
Fort
safe,
Adams.
everyone.